Buying a second-hand car is always a big risk, but by inspecting a few things, you can dramatically reduce the risk of buying a lemon. And no, you don't have to be a mechanic. Now, I've bought many second-hand cars over the years, and this is my process when inspecting a car before I buy it. Now, I'm not a mechanic, so I know there's viewers watching that know way more than I do, so if there's anything that I missed, please comment below so that we all can learn from you. Now, the first thing to mention is there's a difference when I look at a car to buy and resell or flip versus one that I just need a reliable car as a daily driver. If you are willing to overlook a few cosmetic things, you can get very good bargains for a car that is still very reliable and well looked after. But if you want to flip it, then every little detail counts towards your profit. First and probably most important thing that I like to look at is the general appearance of the car. I prefer cars that are standard, not modified. The appearance of the car and the general condition, especially the interior, tells you a lot about the previous owner and how they looked after the car. If the car was terribly neglected from the outside and the interior, the mechanics is probably also neglected in the services. Now, we've had this car for how much? About 12 years now. I can't remember exactly. And I've maintained it myself. So I know the condition, but you can look at the exterior. Yes, it's very dirty. It's been raining for weeks now here in the Lowveld. So I didn't wash it for this video, but everything is standard. Nothing has been modified on this car. The only big issue here is there's a spotlight out there that I haven't replaced it because Suzuki parts are expensive at the dealers. But if you look at the interior, that's the first thing I usually look at. Yes, it's very dirty, the mats, it's just mud everywhere. But the dash still looks in great condition, still has the original radio in it. The steering wheel, after 160,000 kilometers, is not really worn. The gearbox knob. Some cars you see with very few kilometers, all these items that you use regularly are totally worn. Look at the door there. Yes, it's dirty, but the material there, the fabric, is still in great condition. This one had seat covers since new, so if I remove these, you'll see it looks like brand new seats. Even the rear where there weren't seat covers, yes, it's a bit dirty, but it still looks new. If you look at the roof lining, sometimes you can see them sagging and there's mud and dirt everywhere, and then you wonder, how did they get it there? And if people don't look after the interior of their cars, then you have to wonder, did they really service it and look after the mechanical side of the car? Now, there is a difference between general wear and tear due to age and use versus total neglect. Sometimes you see seats that are torn and a dash that has foam sticking out, and then you wonder, what did they do to get a car in that condition? And also dents everywhere, a few scuffs here and there, that's fine, but you just see sometimes cars you wonder how they get them that way, and those I would stay away from. If you look at the engine bay, the most important thing that I look here is for accident damage. So especially here in the front, you can look at the beams there at the bottom, or any of these the body parts. You can see if these bolts have been removed. You can see these are still the factory paint on there, so they haven't been removed. So there hasn't been any fixes done. If you spot anything strange here or resprays, that would be a red flag. Look especially down here in the front and the radiator, like the surrounds, and that would give you an idea of crash damage. Also look at the paintwork. If you see a panel here that is a different color from the rest of the car, like on that Honda there, you'll see the bumper. Someone pointed this out in a video. It's a slightly different color from the rest of the car. You can't really see it now. But anyways, that would mean it could have been resprayed at some point. I'm not too worried about respray. Sometimes people respray the bumpers just for scuffs. I would look for structural damage or welding, those type of things. Now, the next most important thing that's a non-negotiable, and this is the thing that could end up costing you more than the car itself, is the condition of the engine. An engine rebuild is expensive no matter how you look at it. So there's two things you want to check, the oil and the coolant. And these two should not ever be mixed. And you know that by looking at the inside. So I don't know if you can see it there. It's bright pink, the coolant. That's what you want to see. Bright pink, bright green, bright blue. You don't want to see river water, or even clear water is a problem. Not a big problem, but it just means they didn't use coolant and there could be rust inside the engine. If it's clear water, you're still fine, but if it's like river water, brown, there's a lot of rust in the system. Even that's fine. I've washed out many radiators after buying a car and it turned out fine. But the one thing that you do not want to see, and that's immediate walk away, is like a milkshake type situation in there, like a milky, creamy type thing. That's oil and water mixed together. Also look in the oil cap. You want to see there, you can see it's just black oil, and that's fine. I'm not worried if it's black and not clear oil. Clear oil means they recently changed it, which could be a red flag because they might be hiding something. But black like that, it's fine. You don't want to see a milkshake type sludge under the oil cap. Also pull out the dipstick and check. If there's milkshake on there, walk away, because that means head gasket has gone. The head gasket separates the oil and the water inside the system. Next, we'll get in and start the car. So the car is cold now. You want to check it cold. All the lights go on and then it starts very easily and all the lights go off. That's what you want to see. Then get out and see if there's any smoking, or have a friend check the exhaust when you start it up. A little bit of white smoke initially is fine for condensation. That it does it. You'll see there's a bit of condensation, or what do you call it? This is not smoke, but it should clear when the car is at operating temperature. And then if you rev it, you don't want to see black smoke coming out, or blue smoke is even worse. That's oil burning. And then listen at the idle. It must be smooth. No weird knocking or mechanical noises. The slight ticking is fine. That's the injectors ticking. And it will idle a bit higher when it's cold, but once it's at operating temperature, the idle should drop to around 700, 800, 900 RPM. But you don't want to hear a kak or a grinding noise or loud ticking. Just a smooth idle, that's fine. Then, important, let the car idle. Let it stand and idle for at least 10 to 15 minutes, or take it for a drive, test everything else we're going to discuss in the video, and then check that the temperature, it must go within, say, 10 minutes, it must go to around the third way up the gauge. Or if it only has a light, the light must go off, the blue light, and then it shouldn't, the red light shouldn't come on, like a warning light to show that it's overheating. But if it has a gauge, it should sit right below the middle and stay there. Especially when idling, you don't want that gauge going anywhere near the limit where it says hot. That is super important. And then the last thing to check for the engine is for oil leaks. Now this one, like I said, it's very dirty. I haven't washed it, but it's just dust. Sometimes it'll leak from here, especially at the back, and that's totally fine. That is just this valve cover gasket. It's about $1,000. Most cars not that expensive, and to replace it is not that difficult. You just remove the valve cover, put the gasket in there, little bit of sealant in the corners, pop it back on and torque it down, and your leak is gone. That is totally fine. A leak to look out for is that thing there is the gearbox, and this is the engine. Between those two, now most front wheel drive cars has the engine like this, with the gearbox on the side. Look in between there. If it's a major leak there, I think you might actually see it on this car, because there is a leak there. If it's leaking there between the gearbox and the engine, you can see how wet it is. That could be more expensive, because that means the gearbox needs to come out, because the rear main seal of the engine is leaking, and it could leak onto your clutch. So that means the whole gearbox needs to come out, and you replace. The seal itself is like $100, $200, but the labor could be a couple of thousand. And while you're in there, replace the clutch as well. So it's not a train smash, it's something you can fix, but you have to negotiate the price down at least 5 to 10,000, because the gearbox is going to come out and you're going to have to replace the clutch while you're in there anyways, because it's a lot of labor. That's most of the cost. So look out for leaks. Valve cover gasket, that's fine. Oil pipe, that's fine. Sometimes there's solenoids here at the front of the engine, that's fine. You can replace that easily. But leak between the gearbox and the engine, that is a bigger job. It's not a train smash. The car will run fine, but you're going to have to do it at some point, and it's going to cost you a couple of £1,000. And while we're in here, you can check the coolant in there in the overflow bottle if it has one. The level is perfect, and you can see it's bright pink. That's what you want to see. The second biggest thing that could end up costing a lot of money that you can't directly see is the gearbox or the drivetrain. So the best way for me to test it is to just take the car for a drive. So when you pull away, you want to feel, does the clutch work as you expect? It doesn't struggle to pull away and shift between gears. You can, to check the condition of the clutch plate, put it in second or third gear at very low RPM and then put your foot down. If the revs pick up without the speed picking up, the clutch is slipping. So that means, it'll have to be replaced. Also, the clutch you shouldn't have to press it all the way to the floor to change gears. That's what happened with my Fortuner when I bought it on auction at We Buy Cars, and I had to replace it. Then changing gears, it must just feel right. So it shouldn't struggle to engage gears. It shouldn't pop out of gear. So if you drive, say, in third or fourth gear at highway speeds and you take your foot off the pedal, it shouldn't pop out of gear. And obviously there shouldn't be any grinding noises from the gearbox or the drivetrain or the axles. So when you drive, yes, there'll be road noise, but there shouldn't be a grinding metallic noise. Steering and suspension. Steering could end up being expensive depending on what cars you buy. I generally buy Japanese cars, and that's not that expensive, but it could end up costing you quite a lot. So for the steering, it shouldn't be like completely loose with a lot of play. It should not have clunking when you turn. So when you turn like this, there shouldn't be any clunking or mechanical noises, and you shouldn't feel any clunking. In a straight line, the car should track through. This one actually pulls a little bit to the left, so I think it might be wheel alignment. Now, suspension parts are generally not that expensive, like tie rod ends and suspension bushes. I'm not too worried about that. It could be unsafe driving like that, and it could fail the roadworthy, but if there's suspension bushes that needs replacing, I don't worry too much about it. I just factor it into the price. But it won't ruin you completely financially like an engine or a complete gearbox rebuild. And then CV joints, this car doesn't have them, but most passenger car or front wheel drive cars or cars with independent front suspension, not like this Jimny, has CV joints. So if you turn sharply all the way to the left or all the way to the right, you might hear a click, 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 click from one of the wheels, and that means the CV joint's on the way out. And again, it's not that expensive, but it could be 2,000 or 3,000 rand depending on what car it is. So just factor that into the price, but it's not a deal breaker for me. When I drive the car, I just test everything. So if it has aircon, that's one of the first things that I test. If it doesn't blow cold immediately, then it is a problem, because for me, I need it here. I don't want a daily car that has aircon that does not work. And if you want to resell a car, that is definitely one thing that could drop the price considerably. So if it comes out with aircon, for me that is important, so I check that. But if you just need a daily and you're not too worried, you just want a reliable car, it's obviously not that. It could be something that's not important for you. Another thing to look out for are spare keys. If you want to resell the car, especially a spare key is important, because it could end up costing 2,000-3,000 rand to get it replaced. I wouldn't go to the dealer. There's aftermarket places that can do it for you. Even if you clone the key, that's fine for reselling, but just be aware, look out for the spare key, because it could cost you money. And if you lose the key, like we actually lost our main key and I'm driving with the spare key now, that's super dodgy, because if I lose this one now, it might cost a lot to get a new key coded. And then if you can, scan the car with the scan tool. I've never done that before, and I have bought cars with check engine lights on. It was usually just a flat battery code So if you can get hold of a scan tool, plug it in and scan and see if there are any major issues. But generally, if you don't know what to look out for, just looking at the codes won't tell you too much. You have to look at the live data and then understand what it means. And I'll make videos on that in the future. Okay, windscreens. What about windscreens? A lot of cars have cracked windscreens. Now, if it's just a small little stone chip, that's fine. You won't fail roadworthy like this one here. You can't even see it. But especially if it's in your field of view, some roadworthy centers are more pedantic about it. But if it has a massive crack here in front of the driver, they'll fail the roadworthy. But windscreens are not that expensive. Most cars you can get an aftermarket shatterproof windscreen for under 2,000 Rand. So get a quote and before you buy the car and factor that into the price. Okay, so I took it for a 5-minute drive and you can see where the temperature is at the moment below the halfway mark, and that's what you want to see. You don't want it to go anywhere higher and you don't want it to move around up and down. It shouldn't fluctuate. It should just sit there. Even if you let the car idle, chat with the salesman, let the car idle for another 10 minutes with the aircon on, and you must check that must not move. It must just sit there. If it creeps up slightly on some cars, it's fine, but it shouldn't go anywhere near the maximum mark. Note on tires, check the condition of the tires. Yes, the tread is very important, but also look at the date of the tires. On every tire, there should be a date. I'm going to look for it now. It's 4 numbers. Oh, there we go. So it'll be 4 digits, 2719 in this case. So this means this tire was made or manufactured in 2019. So that's already 7 years old, the 27th week. Now, most people say after 5 years you need to replace the tires. You can see small little cracks developing there, but I've driven with tires for more than 10 years without having any issues. But when they get older, they are more prone to flats. The rubber also gets hard and it's not as safe anymore. But it is something that you just have to do a calculation. If the tires are totally worn, I would definitely factor that into the cost and get a discount. And remember, for resale. But if they are still drivable, you can sell the car like that and you can still use it for a lot of miles. Another thing to look out for tires, and that's just like a personal thing, but if they're all the same make, like these are Bridgestone dealers, then that's a good sign. The previous person replaced all 4 tires at the same time, so they were not worried about spending money. But if there are different types, so this one is a Dunlop, that's a Bridgestone, and these are 2 Sumitomos or whatever in the back, that shows that the guy skimped on the care of the car in terms of cost. It's not like a deal breaker, but it just tells you a bit of a story of the previous owner. So something to be aware of. Another thing is the tires should not be different sizes at all. They must all be the same size. So if you look at the size, these are 205, that's the width, 70, that's the profile, 70% of the width is the height, and then 15 inch. Now this size should be the same for all 4 tires. Otherwise, it could have caused damage, but also it's just poor maintenance. So this is just my process of inspecting a second-hand car before I buy. I might have missed a whole lot of things. So far, I haven't bought a total lemon. So if there's anything that I missed, please let me know in the comments. I'm pretty sure there's a whole lot of stuff that I missed, and one day I might get unlucky by missing those. So please help me and help everyone watching by commenting below if you have any additional advice. Thank you for watching, and please let me know if you have any other questions on how to buy a second-hand car. It's a super scary business, but you can really get good deals if you do your homework and with a little bit of luck. Anyways, thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.